that day we were just crying with my husband, and like I was scared. I just couldn't believe that it can happen again. Yeah, since then I'm here, and after moving here, after 5 months, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So since then, it's kind of like like a crazy year. And my doctor called us in and told me that that I developed another type of leukemia, that I have 15% blasts in my bone marrow. I came home, I had 2 weeks off, 1.5, 2 weeks off. And then I went back to the hospital for a week for the consolidation part. The consolidation part is like separated for 3 different parts. And almost every part I had to go to the clinic for like a couple of days or a week or stuff like that to see how I react to the different chemos. I also got like infusion chemos, oral chemos, lumbar punctures, blood transfusions as needed, and sometimes steroids. So after 2 weeks, I went back to the hospital for a week. I get my port inserted, which I still have, and I got everything through that. And I got a new type of chemo, so they wanted to check how I react to those. And then I think that so that second part, which separated to 3 different parts, was lasted until August. And this was, I consider, the hardest, because I had pretty bad days. I would say I had pretty bad days and weeks. I got infection once during the summer, which was like a severe diarrhea, and I got dehydrated. So I spent like 8 days in the hospital, and I thought I'm gonna die. I had like an electrolyte crash, and that was like very, very scary. I kind of saw myself already in the ICU in a coma, and I couldn't eat and drink anything for like 10 days. So I lost, I think, 15 or 20 pounds in 10 days. And yeah, I think it was one of the craziest. And then I got a little time to get better after the infection. And then we have a panic situation because I had a bone marrow biopsy, and my doctor called us in and told me that that I developed another type of leukemia, that I have 15% blasts in my bone marrow, and it seems that I developed AML, acute myeloblastic leukemia. Like when my doctor said, I kind of, my first question was that I did the last 8 months for nothing, and he said, no, you would be dead if you wouldn't do that. So it was for something. I remember I just cried, and my husband held one hand and the doctor held my other, and I was just crying and sobbing, and I just I couldn't understand what I did previously, that I got this, or how unlucky I am. I was also kind of like shocked how these cancer cells are amazing, because they said that they rotated to this other type because they felt that you are attacked, and they could rotating to another type which is not like targeted by the chemo I got. So I was also like surprised that it's a thing and it can happen, and wow. But I was totally like shocked, and that day we were just crying with my husband, and like I was scared. I just couldn't believe that it can happen again. And And I just, I started to think about the transplant. I started to think about another month in the hospital, which I really didn't want it to. I was shocked, to be honest. And I felt that I'm not strong enough to do this again. And even if, somewhere deep inside, I knew that I will be, and I have to, like, I cannot give up. It's not how it works. But I felt I'm so tired mentally and physically that I didn't know how I will be able to do that. And so I have to go to the hospital again for a month, and I will need a transplant. So it was a Thursday, and we scheduled the starting for the hospital stay for Monday. So I went to the hospital. I had another bone marrow biopsy, and we were waiting for the results until the next day to start the chemo. And then the doctor came into my room to tell me that the bone marrow biopsy looks better, and let's put a hold on the starting of the chemo for another day. And then the next day they discharged me, because they said that there's another result which came back, a little detailed one, and it seems better. So all in all, there was like 2-4 weeks where we waited, checked how my bone marrow doing on its own. I had like lots of blood tests, and the thing is that I didn't develop another type of leukemia. Sometimes these blasts, when they are in a growing phase, they can seem like as a cancer, but they are in a growing phase, and we probably catch them in the wrong time. So I didn't develop another leukemia, which was amazing, but I don't wish that like 1.5 months to anyone, because it was crazy. I would say 1.5 months total. So when I was discharged, we waited. I had weekly blood tests, and we saw how my bone marrow is doing on its own. And then I had a repeated bone marrow biopsy months later. So there was a month, and waiting for those results, it was another like 2-3 weeks, because I got the preliminary results quite fast, like in like maybe a week. But then we were still waiting for like detailed results if there's a mutation or stuff like that. But thanks God, everything seems good. And 3 weeks ago, I started the maintenance phase, which seems to be the phase when people go back full-time working. They kind of have a normal life. If everything goes well, you don't have to stay in the hospital, but it takes 1.5-2 years. So it's not a short thing. It was like one infusion chemo monthly, everyday oral chemos, lumbar punctures, steroids once a month for 5 days. So I wouldn't say it's easy. So far, the last 3 weeks was pretty good. I could exercise, I could walk, I could work, I could almost function as a normal person. But my numbers are dropping, and my liver numbers are elevating, which is the result of one of the chemo. So hopefully, like, it will kind of stay on this level, and then I can do the next 1.5-2 years in this like level. I mean, the treatment is the same. Like ECOG, this is the pediatric treatment. It just has the induction phase, the consolidation, and the maintenance. And the consolidation phase has like 3 different courses or cycles. I feel lucky because my husband was there with me all the time. So when the doctors came in and they started to talk for like half an hour and tell everything, sometimes after that I had to discuss it with my husband at the beginning, that okay, so am I right, am I correct, this is what they said, right, blah blah blah. But I think if they have kind of same problems or concerns, then they can maybe just record the whole like discussion with the doctors, if they are okay with that, and then you can just listen it back and probably that can help. Until today I don't feel that good, but until today I was almost normalish. I was a little more tired than, before my diagnosis. Sometimes I needed a nap during the day, but I was in the gym 3 times a week. I walked sometimes like 6 miles a day. I could do everything around the house. I mean, I cannot clean, so I mean, like, I did my own laundry, or I did my own food or stuff like that, which I couldn't do previously. I worked only part-time, but from November I go back to full-time. I work remotely, so that's good. And I don't think I can really plan, or I really want to be honest, because I feel you cannot really, and with this second, let's call misdiagnosis, I just realized that anything can happen at any point. So I feel I will just do everything day by day. Obviously, I would be really happy if everything would stay like this, that my numbers are kind of okay. I'm not immunocompromised, so I'm able to, go to a restaurant and have a lunch there, or I can go to a gym when there is like more than one person. Yeah, so that would be amazing, but I don't think I want to plan, to be honest. Yeah, the only good thing, and what I know, that probably from next year, the beginning of next year, I won't have weekly blood checks, just monthly, which is kind of like, if I have to go to the clinic only once a month, that is amazing. That's a huge difference. I think there would be probably 3 things which I would like, suggest to anyone. First of all, that do not stress about anything. If it's not like health related, there is always a solution. You can always change, and nothing worse. Like I did the same. I was stressing about the deadline in work, or like, like having a call with my boss, or just little things, or oh my God, it's raining again and I wanted to run and I cannot now. These are not the things. This is nothing. So it's not worth it. The second, to just, it's kind of like connected, but enjoy life as much as possible, and surround yourself with people who you like, and say no, because that's totally fine, and be selfish and do things which is good for you. And the third, which is probably the most important, to go to yearly checkups. Or if you feel something is odd, something doesn't feel good, just immediately go, because it can actually save your life. So I think that's one of the most important.